Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to me. Not that I expect you to say welcome back to me, but it has been a while since I have uploaded. Things just got in the way, things got away from me, and so I didn't. Last time I had promised or said that I was doing a episode on canned coffee, and that's what I'm going to do. It's not a review of canned coffee because that would be a little extensive, I think, and it's sort of possible to do in Australia. There's enough of the JDM product and there's local product, but that would be good if, say, a local manufacturer of the local version wanted me to do a review, cough, cough, or some importers wanted me to do a showcase of the types of canned coffee that you can get in Australia. But today I will be talking about my experience of canned coffee, why I think people are wrong about this subjective experience of whether they like it or not, how it fits into the Australian context, and then what it says, I think, about the Japanese context, or what it says about Japan full stop. And that's what I talked about. So the first experience I had with canned coffee was via a subscription box, and it was one that I'd subscribed to for my daughter. And the canned coffee came a bit bewildered as to what it was. I had no experience with canned coffee at this stage. I didn't even know it existed. Must not have. And we read the guidebook, and it basically spelt out that it was a canned coffee. My daughter didn't drink coffee at that stage, but I think we even warmed it up. I think it maybe said something in the guidebook about that. And that we warmed it up, and she tried some of it, but I drank most of it. I wasn't that enamored. But this is compared to what I had in the kitchen, which was quite a good domestic coffee machine. I've got a commercial grinder and I roast my own single origin beans. So it had a lot to deal with. I don't think I'd really given it a second thought until fast forward to when we got to Japan, and I don't really remember why I thought to engage with it. It just might have been seeming the thing to do while in Rome. And I'm pretty sure that I had this one as my first canned coffee. Sorry, autofocus is being a bit weird. So I think this was my first one. Remember, I was bringing home some artifacts. One, because there were hardly any bins, and two, I'd thought about making some art project out of splayed open cans and things like that. And I was not enamored. I'm pretty sure this was at least my first post on social media about canned coffee, and it was that I was completely underwhelmed with it. I didn't like the mouthfeel. I didn't really engage with the taste. I just thought, okay, this is a bit of a dead end. I must have persisted though, and I'm sure I had more than cans than this. In fact, I have a UCC can because I have a little figurine that came with the top of it. Insert my little Yakuza guy here. And because I brought home a Fire and a Boss. And I quite like Fire. I haven't seen this particular one in Australia. But we do get the gold and the fine sugar one, which is like white. But the Rainbow Boss seems to be a lot of people's favourite, and I think maybe this is the one that started to win me over. It was milky, it was sweet. It still doesn't have a heavy mouthfeel like a latte does, but I think my experience was probably heightened too by being able to walk around, stick 120 yen or sometimes 100 yen if you got lucky, into a vending machine and getting a hand warmer. It was at max probably 8 degrees. So being able to get something that is exactly the size of your hand and being able to warm hands, put it in your vestie, swap hands until it got to a temperature that you thought you could drink it, and then it would still be nice and warm, and you would drink that, and it'd be nice and warming. But so also that was my my experience of it. And I think why I started really getting into it and pretty much became a daily, if not more than daily, ritual for me to grab a canned coffee. Vending machines became part of our daily experience of just walking around. Sometimes, even not that thirsty, you just come across a new vending machine, or it'd be a 100 yen one, or something that you hadn't seen before, and you're like, right, we'll have to grab some stuff. So that was my experience. It was that it fit into our daily routine, and let's face it, coffee is a ritualistic substance. It's not just for its properties or its taste, but we form rituals around it, and I think that that's what really solidified it over there for me, was that daily ritual, the hand warming, the new knowing what I would get, the quick grab from a vending machine and down it'd go. Come back to Australia and I find it in Asian supermarkets or like Daiso, and it was almost just that grabbing back again, just for that little bit of experience. So over here, I've actually reasonably made it part of my life as well, and cue my my canned coffee collection, and it's more been about hunting for it and finding it, and just the taste reminding me a bit, and just going, oh yeah, that's right. And especially when I've missed not being able to go back several times now, through to world events and family events and things, being able to have that consistent type thing. Now, why I think people are wrong about their subjective experience of canned coffee, I think reflects my own. Now, in matters of taste, there is no objective. There is only subjective. But I think when I first started tasting it, and I think much due to the fault of, I'm going to say Boss, because they seem to be the ones that really promote premium and espresso. You expect an espresso experience, but how can you really, if we really thought about it, how can you get an espresso experience from that big of a can? It would be like 4 espressos in the one can, and while that might be okay for the more hardcore caffeine user, as a general product, that's never going to fly. People aren't going to be drinking 4-shot espressos in the one go. And it would be quite horrid, I think, without a good dose of taurine in there as well to stop the jitters. So, and even more so with something like that. So I think things like words like premium and espresso really make us focus on the flavour of the coffee. And I don't think that is the primary idea of these canned coffees. I don't, and I'm going to talk more about the experience, I guess. But I think if you drink instant or Nespresso, which, let's face it, are coffee-based drinks, they're not espresso-based drinks. They're not well-crafted siphons. They're not carefully timed pour-overs. They're generic drinks that approximate coffee. Sorry, Mum, and sorry those YouTubers that might not like canned coffee but get very excited at Nespresso, and you know who you are. I'm sure they won't watch this, but there you go. I think they're in that same ballpark. They're a coffee-related product, and I think if we judge them like that, then it's much easier to, I think, warm to them. And again, I think sometimes if you just try the black and you don't try the sweet sugary thing, I don't necessarily think you find your place. So I think it's important to give at least the spectrum of available canned coffees a go. I have heard a disturbing bit of information that these might be coffee-based products in that they're extract, much like, I guess, the milk coffees of Dare and Oak and Big M's and all that sort of thing are coffee-flavoured milk. But I heard this on another YouTube channel, but I haven't been able to substantiate that claim. And it seems that any other information that I find really does indicate that these are coffee. Now, I don't think for 1 minute that the Asahi and Suntory factories are filled with trained baristas all dialing in their grinds and the extraction times and everything, and are throwing things out. No, that extract was a bit fast or whatever. I'm sure that there's a mass producing process involved in this somehow, but I don't think it necessarily relies on extract. So I don't know. If you know for definitively, then let me know in the comments. Cool, that'd be great. I'll still keep drinking them. It'll just disturb me that little bit more. But yeah, if you drink Nespresso or instant, then hey man, how are you saying this is not in your ballpark?
Emotional damage.
The local Melbourne experience, I think, is not that open to this type of product. There's no real space for it, is there? We have third wave coffee places all over the place. Is that still a thing? I think we still say third wave. But we've got a load of coffee places that either roast themselves or buy from specialty roasters. They pick their single origin. They might curate a guest single origin. They might have a different blend for their milk-based coffees as for their espressos and things. And maybe they even offer different types. So Melbourne is not for want of really quality coffee. But along with that quality coffee, we do have a lot of crap. And you go into any food court or any generic cafe, or once you start getting out of the city centre, coffee quickly becomes skyrocketingly hot. Let's pretend I said that word right. Extremely more expensive and much less quality too. In fact, I would usually refer to hot, expensive coffee as rural coffee. It tasted like crap. And you would get it the further you got out from Melbourne. Am I a coffee snob? I wouldn't really call myself that, even though I roast my own beans and everything. It's much about the process and everything that goes along with it for me as much. And I'm happy to drink some crap coffee sometimes, or coffee that I don't like the mouthfeel of, but the taste is okay. Pour overs, siphons, things like that. I don't like them. They're not my favourite coffee, but I can tolerate it. I mean, it's not going to end my life, is it? And this is the thing, that we tolerate them, as I mentioned before. We tolerate these sort of crap coffees, even in a Melbourne-based context. But you take that over to the Japanese context, and you don't have as much quality coffee. And so it isn't that you can just go into your large building that's got a cafeteria and buy a coffee. I mean, you can get them from convenience stores and stuff, but I guess canned coffee's just notched it up that one bit more. Again, I don't rate convenience store coffee. It's the same crap that we've got here. It's coffee-like stuff, and it will work if I need it to. But in the Japanese context, you haven't got all those cafes just everywhere. You haven't got all those diners that you might have in America just serving coffee. You've got Starbucks, but mainly in the larger centres. But what you do have is an absolute crap ton of vending machines. So it's almost like this hive mind decision, because I don't know if there's one person that decided this, or the vending machines already had the hot function because of the teas and stuff, and that hot coffee just seemed like a natural progression, because, I mean, that's, the hot soups and stuff come into it as well, or the hot chocolates and things. But it's almost like there's this hive mind to going, yeah, but it's just a good idea, right? If we could have hot coffee that is consistent and it's cheap, then why wouldn't we do that? And I guess that's the bit I love about it. It's almost like, why wouldn't you do that? But in a place like Australia, where we have ubiquitous coffee, as our hive mind, we decided, no, we don't want that. We want lower quality, higher temperature, and more costly coffee at the convenience, please. So for the sake of convenience, we'll suffer all those. But for the sake of convenience, and I think this goes across many different types of stuff, even convenience stores are a perfect example of this. For the sake of convenience, Japan has gone, well, we still like, okay, we'll sacrifice a little bit on quality, but we want something that's consistent and that we have a choice about and that's really cheap. And so for me, that seems to be, and it's even the more fun version, because it's not like you can get a hot coffee from a 7-Eleven convenience store or a cafe and stick it in your pocket and, have a nice warm experience. I mean, I can from home make a cup of coffee in a keep cup and I can sort of hug it on my way down to the park, but it's not like I can just stick it in my pocket. So for me, canned coffee, and the reason that I think I seek it out in Australia is, that's what it symbolises for me. It just symbolises fun, nice decisions that are, at a community level almost, or integrated into a community at least. They've just gone, this is the best solution. Okay, we can't have top quality, but for that sacrificing it, we can have all these other great things. And so, yeah, that's what it symbolises for me about Japan, is that decision to go with the best of everything at maybe the sacrifice of one particular thing, but not at the sacrifice of everything. Convenience stores. I can't think of a single sacrifice for those. But they've got good quality stuff that's cheap, that's affordable, that's consistent. Is it as good as a restaurant quality thing? Maybe not, but it's not far off. Also, I think along these lines is analogy of baked beans. We know that you can actually get really good quality baked beans. There's some really good artisan sort of baked beans, or the recipe is where you can cook it at home and make it a really considered meal. Or I can heat up a tin of baked beans, stick it on some buttery toast, and have for what I think in Australia and England would be comfort food. I can sit in front of the telly. I can't be bothered cooking, but I can leave that can of baked beans in there, and I know it's going to be the same as it was whenever I put it in there. Years, I guess. I guess in America, sort of packet mac and cheese might be in that category. Coming back to Australia, I think I sought out the canned coffee as a way to relive some of those nice experiences that I had and to keep touch. And I guess when I was a bit sad about not having been able to go back for, since we went, really, I think you can see that I've tried to find a few different varieties even since coming back, as evidenced before by my collection there. The local offering is interesting. They market it as an iced coffee, and I'm really not sure why. I've asked on social media and haven't seen any evidence of them trying to answer why they've gone with an iced coffee. I mean, I can think of a few reasons, but because they market it as Japan's favourite coffee, I find it a bit weird that they actually don't give us Japan's favourite coffee. Everybody was pretty much screaming for rainbow, for them to release a rainbow flavour on social media. The latest offering, blue, I think comes the closest to it, but I think it's actually a re-recipeed premium, which also has a blue can, so that leads everybody to think that that's probably what's happening as well. When people were asking on Instagram and stuff, they were asking Suntory to release rainbow, I found it hard to resist and finally said, well, why don't you just have the rainbow, the JDM rainbow? And it was surprised to me that people weren't sure where to get it from. And so I pointed out an Asian grocery. And so I started having a look to see whether just the ones around my area it was easy to get, but indeed most Asian groceries I've been into would at least have Boss, if not Fire, and usually offerings from other Asian countries as well, and sometimes they're a bit hit and miss. I would really love to like the Korean ones more, but I don't, and usually because they're quite a lot cheaper in Australia than the JDM coffees. I've found some okay ones though, but Yeah, probably if there was a Korean place really close to me, I might be tempted to grab more of those again because they're a lot cheaper and it's just a good morning coffee. But it is nice to be able to go to work with a canned coffee, heat it up at work, via some boiling water. We do have a couple of coffees at work. One's Poco, which is quite fine. It's okay. The other one is Japanese one, but it's zero sugar. So I don't know what Monster thought that was a good idea. They don't seem to have been using the warming function of the machines, and they are JDM machines. I've got two JDM vending machines near where I work, and despite me actually specifically asking them many times to activate some of the heating function, it's just moving some baffles and turning a little sign around. I'm not sure why. I've had this discussion with a friend of mine, and I'm still not convinced. I'm still not convinced that there's a reason why you wouldn't just activate the heat function. It doesn't cost anything. I think you either go with the local offering. The blue one is fine. A lot of people seem to like the vanilla latte one. You do you. But if you want, then just pop your head into an Asian grocery and you will probably at least find one or two varieties of Japanese canned coffee. So it's not that hard to get. The price point goes all over the place. So I've seen the same product. Say, let's take a Boss Premium. I've seen it for probably $2.20 right up to like $3.80. So it varies quite a lot, and not necessarily with fluctuations in the market or anything, but more so just the shop deciding what they want to charge for it. For a long time, Daiso was consistently $2.80 because that's what they were doing. But in some shops, I can find it a bit cheaper at like that $2.20 mark. And I'll get a few at that stage, hopefully finding some cool can. Like I've got, there was a Demon Slayer series and there's been a One Piece series. I think Wanda was doing One Piece and Dido was doing Demon Slayer. Sometimes it's amusing to have those little cans and display them, as you can see I have done. But yep, canned coffee, I think it would even work well here, although I can see the reason why it's not essential, but in a Japanese context it makes all the sense, and as I said, I think it really speaks to that, hey, this is a really good idea, let's do it this way, sort of ethic that Japan does seem to have, and why I think I fell in love with many aspects of it. Next video, I'll be doing energy drinks, at least in some way. I'm not sure of my story behind that yet, but I do think energy drinks there are a little bit more interesting as well. They're not as Kyle orientated as the Monsters and Mothers and V's that we have here, or Red Bull, but that sort of seems to have gone by the wayside here. Oh look, I mean, I drink them here, but yeah, they do seem to take on a little bit of a different twist. Cool. Alrighty. Hopefully this new setup has gone well. It has been a massive pain in the ass for me, so hopefully it's brought something to the videos. Alright, I'll see you next time. Cheers.